Who's ready for an awesome night?
Woo!
I can see you
I'm
all
very
are
popular
very
believe some of
excited.
us actually are excited.
Wow.
Alright,
Are you excited, Brady?
I'm excited.
I'm also excited.
I'm excited.
Turn to your neighbor and ask them this question, and also answer it yourself. What is your favorite / the best potato chip flavor? I am a salt and vinegar guy.
Ooh,
but
me
I
too,
know-
me too. I
Okay.
will agree.
Turn to your neighbor. Go.
No.
No.
What's up?
Say connector. So, your favorite salt and vinegar drink?
What's your favorite flavor? Voodoo chips.
That's an amazing answer. Yes.
I need you to pick 2 leaders. Ready, set, go.
That one, I don't hear your name. What's
From Amy.
Amy and...
We got a really fun game for you guys tonight. Either the leaders get a prize or they get a punishment. So, there are some really scary punishments in here. One of them might be to shave your eyebrow. One of them might be the Jolly Rancher. You have to eat a Jolly Rancher every single time. And so, Brooke, who would you like? Yeah, just say like if you want Emily, Jack, Edwin, or Amy. Sweet tooth means that every single round the leader has to put a new Jolly Rancher in their mouth.
I'm going to tell you after.
Okay, this one means you have to eat a jalapeno. Okay. Roll it. Stop. Okay, this is sticky hands. Freeze. Hit roll. When to stop? Stop now.
Do you even live?
Liz, who would you like this for? Sorry. Okay, who's next? How many more do we have left, Matt? Wait.
Okay, roll it.
Roll it. Stop it. Sticky hands again. Who would you like? Stop it.
Roll it. Stop.
Once more. Who would you like that for?
Here's the thing, as we look at that idea of documentaries and people talking about someone, those closest to someone almost always gets to know that person's greats and their lows. Right? So think about you, those closest to me and to you, they most likely know our gifts, the things that we're really good at, who we are, what we've accomplished, the ways that we're really messy, the ways we've messed up, our downfalls, all of who we are. They often know our greatest greats and some of our lowest lows, right? And so tonight we're going to jump into this story. We'll pull it up on the screen for you to read here, and I'm just going to read it. It's from Matthew chapter 16, and then we'll talk a little about it. And it says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, which sounds like a disease, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? And they replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others, Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. But what about you, he asked, who do you say I am? And Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. So, I'll have more to say about this, but that last phrase, you're a Messiah, I wanted to just kind of, what does that mean? Like, that's not a word that, like, I don't go and call my friends, what's up, Messiah? Like, that's just not, I don't know anyone named that. But it's like, simply put, it's leader or savior, all right? So, take that for you will. We'll jump back into that. But here's the thing, when you look at that, when he asked, hey, what are the people of the times? Who do they say, when Jesus is like, who do they say I am? Those names, maybe they don't ring a bell to you, but those are like famous people of the time. Some of them are famous people of history. Some of them are like other religious languages. Like they're just taking guesses of who he is. Like this would be like if someone just got footage of America basketball history of the last 40 years, and then they try to like guess who the players were without really knowing much. Like that's what the people at the times were doing. They didn't get to be with Jesus. They just had heard of him, and then they were saying this is who he was. And then we look at Peter, who is one of the people who was closest to Jesus. And Peter responds by saying, yeah, you're the Savior. So just like a documentary where we get to see those teammates who are closest to Michael Jordan say something about him, right? Like that's a powerful moment because they were there, they experienced it, they have the truth, right? Like they got to say, Michael Jordan, he was mean, but he was also the best teammate I ever had. And then we get to see Peter, someone who was with them, say, yeah, Jesus, you're the Savior, right? And so here's the thing. I think that Savior piece is just worth looking into for a second, all right? Because if you know anything about Jesus, and what he said he did, he died for everyone, spoiler alert if you didn't know that, and then conquered the grave on the third day. Happy Easter. And what that means is meaning he conquered all of our mistakes, our mess-ups, our imperfections, things that we've done wrong or maybe that have been done to us. Like at that moment, the things that we mess up on, he put those aside and says, hey, I see you, the best in you. Like I don't see all these problems. That's bygone stuff now. I see like a beautiful person that I love in front of me, right? Like that's what that means when he said, hey, I came to die for everyone. And Savior in the dictionary is someone who has saved someone from danger. So meaning that person has another chance at life or a chance at a different life, right? So then when I look at what Peter's saying, and he's calling Jesus his Savior, this is what I think he might mean. And it's following Jesus, it's a second chance at life or a different way of doing life. So doing so offers us a chance at a different life than what we're currently living. And if we watch how Peter's life plays out after this moment, he would say he lived the best life that he could have. And it wasn't an easy life. Peter's life wasn't fun at all the time. It wasn't easy. But he decided to follow Jesus. And Peter knew that he was loved, that he had a purpose, that he had direction in life, and that he didn't have to do life alone because he decided to follow Jesus, right? Okay, so for us, if you're like me, you're sitting there and being like, this is cool. Like, you're telling us some information, so what? And I would say, great question, Matt. Because I think it's worth, like, great, if we talk about this and then we just leave and it was like, cool, we got to hear about a history lesson. I just went to school for the last 10 hours of my day or 3 days this week, and that's what it felt like. I wanted to bring some practical pieces into that. So for us, here's, I guess I should maybe say what Wi-Fi is about as our series. And it's this. Where we connect our life to ultimately determines our direction and purpose. All right, so where we connect our life to ultimately directs our direction and purpose. So most of you probably know this, like when it comes to service on your phone or what Wi-Fi you're attached to or connected to, it really matters, right? Like if I was to say right now, who here would take their home Wi-Fi over an airplane Wi-Fi, who's taking their home Wi-Fi? Most everyone will, because the airplane Wi-Fi is...
The one you have to pay for, or like the one at the airport?
Do you have to pay for your home Wi-Fi?
Technically, yes. Honestly,
You guys probably don't.
Airport Wi-Fi is sick compared to the one in my house.
That could be true. I'm saying airplane. Airplane.
Well, the one you paid for like $8.
Either way, I will not ever take an airplane Wi-Fi over one that I can get here on ground. Like, it's just a lot better. And so here's this idea. Let me take this idea of being connected with a Wi-Fi and make it a little bit more personal. Like, what is it that you're connected to? Right? Like, it's important to look at if what you're connected to determines your direction and purpose, what is it? Right? So here's questions that might help you kind of get kick-started in looking at what you're connected to. So like, what keeps you going in life? What gives you excitement or aka what gives you life? What gives you purpose? What gives you direction? What motivates you? Think about some of those questions. Answer them in your head. Because those answers that you're coming up with, they might show you what you're connected to. So here's a couple other examples that might kind of kickstart your brain a little bit more. If you're really connected to your friends, what they say and what they do will direct how you show up in life or what you do in life, right? The saying of like who you surround yourself with. You're connected to those people and they determine your direction and purpose, right? Maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend, every decision or thing that you do is then put through this lens of them being involved or doing something with them or making them mad if you decide to not do something with them, right? Like you're connected to them, and so then how you then live your life, that matters. Or maybe like a model of success. Like maybe you follow a bunch of the business gurus, success coaches, and they're giving you all the tips, tricks, hacks of how to be a successful person. Maybe it's some religion or tradition of a way of doing life, right? Those are all things that you could be connected to. I don't know what it is for you, but again, I think it's worth figuring out, hey, what gives you direction in life? What gives you purpose? All right? So, to just recap a little bit about tonight, as we first started talking about documentaries and this really neat thing of getting to hear people who were in Vietnam War or in World War II or played with Michael Jordan. Like there's something to that firsthand experience. And then we went to the story of Jesus where we get to hear Peter say, yeah, you're the Savior. Which to me, when I hear that, I think it's worth, if someone makes a claim of like, hey, I came here to give you a different life and a life that they think is better than the one we might currently be living, I think that's worth saying, this guy died for us. So one, he's either crazy and this is just ridiculous, or there's actually something worth looking at this claim, because that claim is wild. And if that claim's actually true and I have a purpose in life and life now has a direction and I'm motivated by some way, like I think it's worth just looking at those things that people dedicate their whole life to and being like, is this a good fit, right? And then we just talked about, again, what is it that you're connected to? I would encourage you, if maybe you didn't have answers tonight, spend some time this week just thinking about it, because again, where we spend our time, our energy, our focus, that's ultimately what we think is most important in life. And so if you're like, hey, what I felt like I was connected to actually doesn't line up with what I actually want to be connected to, and that's okay. There's no shame in that. Like, have grace on yourself. So here's, if you're sitting there and you're like unsure of this whole Jesus thing, or if you want to follow him, or you're like, I don't know really where I'm at in all that, I just would say, here's an encouragement to you, is just get curious about someone who claims that they could potentially give you a different meaning and purpose in life, right? It's not saying the life you're currently living is bad, but if you have another way that's like, hey, other people say it's a great thing, it's the best way to do life, it's just worth saying, hey, let me get curious. Let me throw that up against the wall and see if it sticks. Maybe the other question I encourage you is like, people who say they follow Jesus, what does their life look like? Like, does it look like one that's enjoyable, or is it horrible? Just ask questions, right? And then if you have said yes to following Jesus, my question to you is, how are you staying connected? And maybe the follow-up of that is, are you connected? Right? If you're like me, you know a lot of people who say they follow Jesus, and ultimately they're the ones that are the meanest to people around here, the ones that judge everyone. And my general guess is because Jesus is something that they're not really actually connected to, because that's not the way that he would say, hey, this is how you should live, right? So next week we're going to dive into answering some of those questions about who is Jesus. If I am connected to him and I've decided to follow him, well, how do you follow him? What are the tips and tricks of like getting to know someone from history who's still doing things today? Like, how do you get to know him and decide, like, how's he going to help me go to college, right? Like, that's a good question to be like, if I follow Jesus, how do I follow him to college when he can't just be like, I think you should go here, right? So we're going to talk about some of those things next week. And so